Last time we lit the match, voices rose, crowns shifted, and some of you learned what real heat feels like. But fire doesn't stop because you survived it once. Tonight it comes closer, sharper, hungrier. So if you came back thinking you were ready, prove it. The second Inferno session begins now. The castle had been simmering all day. Every corner had been warmed by the quiet fire the Queen stirred for her own pleasure. She hadn't said much, but she didn't need to. A glance, a soft command. Everyone had felt the heat of her hand even without her touch. And now, night has fallen. Silence spread like a velvet cloak across the castle. The Inferno room glowed steady in the dark, gold along the obsidian floor, embers alive beneath the stage platform. The bar stayed open in the back, manned by Derentu and Seren, but no one raised their voice above a murmur. Crowns glittered softly under firelight as the favorites each took their place, all seated, all watching. Rain Tami sat as she pleased, crown angled low, expression unreadable. Nick, glowing from the morning's reward, leaned into his seat, bold, his fire burning brighter tonight. Mister, silent but calculating, still always watching. Serene, daring as ever, a smirk already pulling at his mouth. Salin, polished and quiet, her crown light but sharp, leaned near the aisle with her eyes trained on the stage. And Deja, the Queen. Her crown sat heavy, catching every flicker of flame. She entered when she chose, and the room quieted even more. Everyone already knew what this night was, who might rise, what might be said. But no one could predict how it would unfold. Tonight, there were no names called, no steps rehearsed, just breath, silence, and the soft glow of the obsidian stairs, waiting to be climbed. And then, the first speaker rose, a woman, unknown to the castle's inner circle. She walked slow, poised, the hem of her dress catching emberlight. She took the stairs like a queen, but her crown was missing. She let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then finally,
there was once a man who taught me how to disappear. And I did. For 5 years, I didn't speak. Not even to myself.
She walked the stage slowly, letting her voice hold. Someone in the audience stiffened.
He was a ghost, and I was the one who let him haunt me. Until one day, I said his name in a room that looked like this.
A flicker of her gaze swept toward Mister, not accusation but curiosity, then gone.
So tonight, I ask this, does letting someone go mean they never come back? Or is memory a crown we never wanted to wear?
She stopped center stage.
That's my question. That's my fire. If you have an answer, I'm listening.
And she turned to the audience. Her words were open now, free to challenge. The air shifted. Her voice still lingered, soft, sharp, echoing against the obsidian. And then, she opened her hand.
The floor is open. If anyone has the courage to answer me, now's your chance.
Silence held for a breath, then another. From the audience, a man stood, not part of the Queen's favorites, no crown, but his eyes had weight. He was older, dressed simply, a professor type maybe, or someone who once had fire and was trying to remember how to use it. He didn't climb the stage. He just spoke from where he stood, his voice rough like stone pulled from the earth.
Letting someone go doesn't mean they won't come back. But if they do, they return different. You don't get the same ghost twice.
He looked at the speaker directly.
You wearing that memory like a crown says it wasn't just his ghost. It was yours too.
The room murmured. A few looked to the Queen to see if she'd show any sign, but she remained still. A single finger tracing the rim of her wine glass, watching. The speaker tilted her head.
And what if I wore it because I loved him?
The man smirked faintly.
Then your fire's still burning. And maybe you haven't let go at all.
A moment passed. Then she smiled. Quiet. Almost grateful. She turned again and faced the full room.
Then maybe that's enough for tonight.
She descended the stairs, not rushed, not shaken. Just finished. Cassian stepped forward silently from the edge of the wall. He didn't speak, but he nodded. One debate ended. The next could begin at any moment. The platform waited, dark and still. Then footsteps again. Slower this time. Measured. A new figure emerged from the aisle. A young man, striking in posture but dressed plainly, like a poet who didn't care if he was seen. He moved with deliberate rhythm, the kind that made people pay attention without knowing why. He climbed the stairs, let the silence stretch. A spotlight rolled across the obsidian as the platform beneath him pulsed a low red. He stood at the center, not moving, letting the quiet lean against him. And then...
My name is Camden.
He paused, like he knew the name might be remembered or forgotten.
And I've come to say something I never thought I would.
He turned to the left, then slowly back to the right, speaking more to the air than anyone in particular.
I love someone who didn't choose me, not once, not even by accident. But I stayed long enough to learn their patterns, their timing, their lies, their silence. Every smile they gave someone else, I learned it too, memorized it, told myself it meant nothing. I became a student of rejection, an artist of staying put.
A beat.
And that made me dangerous.
The platform flickered orange. He smiled, small, sly, eyes scanning the room.
So here's what I want to know.
He walked a few paces toward the edge of the platform facing the crowd.
Does loving someone longer mean you love them better? Or does it just mean you didn't know when to leave?
The room rippled. He paused, gave one final glance upward.
The floor is open.
There was a beat of stillness, then a rustle from the side. Someone in the crowd, not a favorite. A woman in her late 20s stood up slowly, auburn locks coiled into a low bun, a thick black coat draped over one shoulder. Her voice came quiet at first, measured, skeptical.
Camden, you ever think maybe the love you gave was never about them? Maybe you just needed somewhere to pour yourself so you didn't drown in your own silence.
Camden didn't flinch.
I've thought about that every night for the last 3 years.
The platform stayed orange.
And you still needed a stage to say it?
Number, I needed to feel what it sounded like when the silence broke for me.
The crowd stirred. Some nodded, some whispered. The woman gave a slow nod herself, then sat back down. Cassian, still against the wall, took a single step forward and spoke. That debate is closed. And just like that, the lights dimmed on Camden's figure, fading him back into the hush. The silence returned, thick, velvet, and watchful. Then, from the far left of the room, the chair scraped softly. The next speaker rose slowly, heels clicking in deliberate rhythm. Not rushed, not hesitant. She was tall, powerful, golden brown skin wrapped in a sharp asymmetrical dress, one sleeve long, the other bare. Her hair was shaved on one side and twisted high on the other. A gold chain slid down her spine. No crown. But she didn't need one. Not yet. She ascended the stairs with elegance sharpened like a blade. When she stepped onto the obsidian platform, it lit instantly. Orange, bold, clear. She didn't speak. She paced first, a single loop around the edge, scanning the room. A breath. Then she stopped at the center and smiled.
My name is Varen, and I'm not here to cry about love lost or beg for someone's attention.
A low murmur rippled through the crowd.
I'm here because some of you have crowns you haven't earned, and I'm curious who bleeds first when someone finally says it out loud.
The room tensed. A few heads turned, not at the Queen or her favorites, but at each other. At Raintami, who didn't blink. At Neek, who grinned. At Seren, who hadn't moved.
But that's not the debate I brought. Not tonight.
She turned slowly, hands folding behind her back.
I want to know why power, true power, is always mistaken for control. And if you think they're the same, I want you to prove it.
She let that hang there, then extended one hand toward the audience.
Anyone?
Gasps weren't allowed in the Inferno room. Not here, not in front of her throne. But the audience breathed in just a little too hard when Varen finished her question. Silence held for a beat longer than it should have. Then it cracked. A voice from the second row, sharp, older, scoffed.
Power is control. What else would it be? Emotion?
Laughter followed him. Two people near the back nodded, murmuring something under their breath. Someone else near the right aisle whispered too loudly.
She just came up here to throw shade at the favorites and pretend it's philosophy.
Varen didn't look at any of them. She just stood there, hands still folded behind her back, her body unmoving, but the fire in her platform brightened to yellow for a flicker. Only for a flicker. The murmur spread, some agreeing, some defending, some confused. But no one stepped forward yet. Not until the fire on the obsidian platform caught something else. A movement. A stir. The yellow didn't burn brighter because of the crowd. It was because someone had moved. Eyes shifted. Voices stopped. Even the murmurs quieted in one breath as they realized who the challenge would come from. Varen's posture didn't shift, but her chin lifted slightly. Not in defiance, in recognition. She wouldn't smirk at the Queen. Not yet. Deja didn't move, didn't rise, didn't blink. But her voice cut through the Inferno room like it had always been part of the heat.
Power is the art of restraint.
The firelight shifted. The audience turned, but they didn't speak. No one dared interrupt the sound of her voice. So calm, so exact. It felt like she'd been waiting all night to say those words. Varen's eyes moved for the first time. Not her head. Just her eyes. Cutting slowly toward the source of the sound, like she already knew where it came from. Her mouth parted slightly, but she didn't reply yet. The yellow of the obsidian glowed deeper, steadier. Deja leaned back slightly in her seat, wine glass near her lips, the crown resting on her locks like it was born there.
Control without restraint is desperation. What you described sounds like someone pretending to lead.
The platform pulsed beneath Varen's feet, yellow edged with red now, her mouth pressed together. Not in fear, but in thought. Deja hadn't even stood. And still, the room waited on her response like their breath depended on it. She stepped forward again, finally answering.
And what if restraint becomes avoidance? When no decisions are made because you've mastered the art of not choosing?
She smirked.
Tell me, Queen, where's the line between power and passivity?
Now the fire flickered gold beneath both of them. Deja rose, not in a rush, not to respond, but because the moment asked for more of her, and you never deny the moment. The hem of her black floor-length dress whispered against the stone floor as she stood, The crown on her head shimmered gold in the firelight. Not a sound followed. Not from the crowd, not from her circle, not from the stage. Varen didn't move either. She just watched. Deja's steps were silent. No heel dared to echo. She descended slowly from the upper seats, then crossed the space between her and the platform, like it was built for her alone. The obsidian steps glowed beneath her as she ascended, yellow gold under her footfalls, warmer with every inch she claimed. When she reached the top, Varen took a single step back to give her room. She didn't thank her. She just walked. The stage held the silence for her. The platform pulsed gold now, alive under her presence. She circled her once, deliberate, then stopped just behind her and spoke quietly, voice curling into the heat like smoke.
The difference between power and passivity is what happens when the fire gets too close.
Deja moved to her side, standing still now, not facing her, facing forward.
Power remains still. It doesn't chase. It burns through what tries to test it.
The audience hadn't exhaled. Not yet. She turned to face her. The stage didn't shift. It deepened. The glow at her feet remained gold, but now it felt sharper, like it was listening. Varen held her composure, but something in her cheek twitched. Deja saw it.
Tell me something, Varen. When the silence stretched long enough to make your voice shake, did you still believe it was your time to speak?
A beat, then another. Varen's hands laced lightly in front of her, but she didn't answer right away. She looked toward the audience, then back to Deja.
I didn't come here to be comfortable. I came here to be heard.
Deja tilted her head.
Then speak louder.
It wasn't a demand. It was a dare. The entire room inhaled again, finally, and Varen's expression changed. No longer polite, no longer meek. Something in her spine straightened.
My name is Varen Kale, and I came here to say that too many people sit on crowns and forget how they got them.
Gasps from the crowd, a rustle of murmurs. A few turned to look at the favorites. Mister's smirk returned. Raintami blinked once, slowly. Varen kept going.
I challenge the way power gets lazy. I challenge silence when it forgets it used to be thunder. I'm not here to play noble. I'm here to remind this castle that fire doesn't only live in one throne.
And then... Varen turned slightly toward Deja again, but didn't speak further. Not until Deja does something. The firelight clung to Deja like silk, the gold glow wrapping her ankles, not letting go. She didn't move, but her presence did. It filled the platform. Varen had thrown her words like daggers, but the Queen didn't blink. She took a step, then another. The sound of her heels echoed, slow and poised, like thunder disguised as grace. She circled her, not fast, not threatening. Just enough for her to feel the shift, the reminder.
Do you think the crown is given to the loudest voice, Varen?
She turned with her slightly, her breath catching just once.
Or the one who can hold the room, without raising it?
Her tone didn't rise. It folded beneath hers, wrapped around her like velvet, and reminded her this stage wasn't hers yet.
You came here to challenge power, but it's only a challenge if I feel it.
The room stirred again. Some leaned in. Raintami's expression didn't change, but her fingers drummed quietly on her armrest. Midsta had gone still, watching Deja, not her. Serene leaned back, amused.
Then maybe you should start listening.
She paused, then smiled.
Oh, I've been listening.
She stopped walking, turned toward her fully.
And the only thing I've heard is your desire to be noticed.
Varen's face flickered. Pride warred with something quieter. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The platform flared orange beneath them both.
Silence.
Her brow lifted, just barely. The room caught it. So did Varen. Her jaw tightened like she knew she'd already lost something, but couldn't figure out what. She didn't smile, not fully, but the tease laced her voice like honey laced with heat.
Oh no, darling. Don't give me all that fire, just to quiet down when it's your turn to burn.
Varen held her gaze, but her hands betrayed her, fingertips grazing her other wrist as if looking for a grip, a lifeline. The gold platform dimmed beneath her side, still hot, but losing heat. And now... Varen swallowed, and the room caught it. Every small gesture mattered here. The platform stayed dim beneath her, but she didn't leave. She held her ground. Slowly she turned her back to Deja and began to walk again. Not in defiance, but like a storyteller resuming the tale she hadn't finished.
My father used to say that the world belongs to the quiet ones, until a louder one takes it.
She paused at the edge of the platform, letting her fingers trace the air beside her as if painting her thoughts.
I spent most of my life believing silence was power, that not reacting meant I was above it all. But silence has a sound, doesn't it? It echoes. And mine was starting to sound a lot like fear.
A few heads turned in the audience. She stepped forward again.
So I came here, not for a seat, not for the Queen's attention.
She looked directly at Deja then, and this time, she bowed her head just slightly.
I came to say something out loud for the first time in my life.
The platform glowed orange beneath her now, not fire, but warmth. She turned, back to the audience.
My debate is this. Is restraint truly the highest form of power, or just the most elegant form of fear?
Then she stopped.
The floor is open!
A soft ripple moved through the room. The challenge was set. The moment hung, stretched, and Varen stood still, until Deja's voice cut clean through it.
Restraint.
She says as she rose slowly, every word deliberate.
It's a game of timing.
Her heels touched the platform like silk against stone. The orange glow deepened beneath her feet, and then... gold. The obsidian beneath her shimmered with heat. A single audience member gasped. Varen turned toward her without moving her feet.
Real power doesn't rush. It waits. It watches. It strikes only when there's no need to announce the blow.
Deja began to circle her.
But fear is clumsy. It holds back because it doubts. Because it hopes someone else will take the shot first.
Varen's breath trembled once, but she didn't interrupt.
I don't hold back because I'm afraid. I hold back because I know no one in this room is ready for me at full fire.
Her voice softened, dangerously.
And restraint, my dear Varen, is what keeps you standing.
The gold under her feet pulsed again. Cassian's voice cut in, low and final. This debate is concluded. A long silence. Then applause, measured, unsure if it was permitted, but undeniable. Varen stepped down slowly. She didn't speak again. Cassian gave a nod without a word, his approval marked only by the smallest shift of his stance, and Deja descended the steps, unhurried, the platform cooling back to a deep red behind her. The fire dimmed. The room quieted again. No name was called, no gesture made. But the next speaker had already decided. A man rose. Not handsome, not forgettable either. His face was sharp, confident, his hair braided back in thick rows. His jacket was worn but clean, and when he walked, it was clear he'd done this before. Not here, but somewhere. Somewhere loud and less kind. He ascended with a slow precision, looking at no one until he reached the center of the stage. Then, he faced the crowd, his shoulders squared, mouth set. A beat passed, and then...
I'm Quen.
He didn't explain who he was. He didn't smile. He waited, then took 2 slow steps.
There was a boy I knew once. Grew up on stories. Didn't believe a single one of them. Said kings and queens were made by birth and blood, and that anyone who claimed a throne without one was just playing dress-up.
He glanced around, locking eyes with a woman in the 3rd row who stiffened at the attention.
But he didn't say that to my face.
The fire beneath him shifted. Orange, slow building.
He said it after I walked away. After I built something with my hands. After I fed people who would have starved waiting for a crowned one to save them. After I became the kind of man who doesn't need a seat to be heard.
He stepped closer to the edge of the platform.
So I ask you, are titles earned by legacy or by labor?
He raised a brow.
And who decides which labor counts?
He turned slightly, gesturing with one open hand.
The floor is open.
The fire flickered, daring. There was a slow stir near the back. A woman, young, ink-dark curls tied high, with a sleeveless crimson dress that fell like liquid around her, stood and walked toward the platform. Her heels were silent. Her smirk was not. She didn't step onto the obsidian stage. Not yet. She circled it instead, like a cat watching fire flicker in a cage.
You talk like a man who built the world, but sound like one who's still asking permission to live in it.
The room shifted. Quen turned slightly. His mouth twitched. He didn't answer. Not yet. She stepped up. One heel, then another.
My name is Mireia.
Her voice carried.
And I was born to no one. No bloodline, no crest. Just scars that look better now that I wear silk.
She walked past him, just close enough that their shoulders brushed.
But here's my question. Since you're offering the floor...
She turned sharply to face him.
What happens when your labor builds someone else's legacy?
The platform flared to orange.
Do you still call it yours?
She didn't sit down. Didn't step back. She stood across from Quen, head tilted, waiting to see what he would say next. The room did what it always did when tension peaked, stilled into perfect silence. Except for the subtle shift of posture, the slight leaning forward from a few seats in the back, the sound of a drink being placed down gently. No one dared speak yet, but the energy curled hot around the stage like it had a mind of its own. Mireia remained unmoved. Her eyes didn't leave Quen, and Quen, to his credit, didn't glance toward the Queen or the guards or the crowd. He leaned forward ever so slightly, not aggressive, just grounded.
I suppose that depends.
His voice dropped lower.
Was I building a legacy or laying bricks to escape a prison?
A few soft murmurs passed through the room.
You say silk makes the scars better. I say they never looked better than when they were fresh, because that's when I knew what I'd survived.
He didn't walk the stage like she did. He just stood there and let the heat roll through his words.
But to answer your question directly, if someone takes what I built and calls it theirs, they better keep building, or I'll come back for it.
The platform didn't rise to yellow, but it deepened, like embers cracking louder now. Mireia smiled. Not soft, not cruel, just interested.
Fair answer.
And she stepped back slightly. Then she turned her head, just enough to open the floor if anyone else wanted to speak. Mireia's hand remained open, her body turned slightly to the side as if to invite a challenge. But the silence after Quen's answer lingered like smoke. Then, Cassian, from where he stood at the back of the room, gave a single nod. It was always quiet, always final. This debate is closed. The obsidian platform cooled to red as the light dimmed slightly beneath Quen and Mirea's feet. Both stepped off at their own pace, Quen steady, Mirea with the same liquid grace she entered with. They passed without a word. The audience absorbed it in silence, still charged, still unsure what to make of them both. The room remained warm, curious, ready. The platform pulsed back to its default red, and somewhere within that quiet, a chair moved. Not loudly, not for show. Just enough to suggest another speaker had decided it was time. The chair scraped back in the far left section of the audience. No crown, no title, no known name yet. A man rose, mid-30s maybe, clean cut but not polished. He didn't dress to impress. He dressed like someone who knew how to fight and didn't mind getting his hands dirty. A scar traced the edge of his jaw, faint but deliberate. His locks were pulled back low, and his shirt sleeves were rolled neatly to his elbows. He didn't smile, didn't scan the crowd. He just walked, up the aisle, step by step, then up the stairs of the platform, unhurried, solid. When he reached the center, he stood there with both hands behind his back and stared at the ground, letting the silence stretch, letting the room breathe, letting them wonder if he belonged here at all. Then finally his voice, rough, not loud.
My name is Caven.
He looked up slowly. Firelight hit one side of his face. The obsidian at his feet shifted from red to orange.
I wasn't invited to this castle. I didn't come through anyone's arms or legacy. I don't have a past here to make you listen to me.
He scanned the faces, pausing briefly on Deja, then Rain Tami, then Mizda.
But I've listened to all of you. I've been here longer than you think, and I have something to say.
He stepped forward, 1 foot closer to the edge.
There are two kinds of people in this castle. The ones who were born to be seen, and the ones who were built to see everything.
The light surged orange.
I've watched crowns shift hands, like dice. I've watched silence used like a blade. I've watched the ones who think they're invisible act like they're gods.
A faint murmur from the audience. No one moved yet.
So, I came here to ask, if you weren't born with a name in this place, but you speak with more fire than anyone who was, shouldn't you be heard too?
He paused.
That's my debate. Tell me, anyone who disagrees, why this room should only belong to the ones the Queen already favors?
He opened the floor to questions. The light on Caven burned steady orange, neither dimming nor rising. He held his stance like a man who'd trained for it. But he didn't move when he saw who stepped forward. From the far right of the platform stairs, a familiar figure began to walk, slow, poised, and deadly quiet. Derento. Her heels didn't echo. They announced. She wasn't one to rush a challenge, and she didn't so much walk the stairs as command them. Each step measured, controlled, like she was weighing the temperature of the platform before she even touched it. When she finally reached him, she didn't look at Caven right away. She looked at the audience. She looked at Deja. And then she turned to the man who dared to speak like that in this room.
You speak well.
A pause.
But speaking well doesn't make you right.
She began to circle him, not predator-like, but precise, like she was studying the cut of his beliefs.
You say this room should belong to those with fire, but you forget the reason we wear crowns isn't because we were born with them.
She stopped behind him.
It's because we survived enough flame to earn them.
A murmur rippled. The platform began to flicker, Caven's orange pulsing now, overlapping faintly with her gold as she took the center.
You've watched, but you haven't bled for it.
She turned slowly, facing him again.
So speak your truth, Caven. But don't mistake attention for approval.
And with that, she stood in silence beside him, not yielding, not threatening, just waiting. Caven didn't move right away. The gold near Dorento's feet pulsed, steady and radiant. His own light, a soft orange, seemed almost humbled beside it. But still, he didn't back away.
You're right.
That earned him silence. The room stiffened, not from agreement, but surprise.
You have bled for your crown. I've seen it. I've studied every one of you who wears one.
He turned slightly, just enough to face her fully.
But I didn't come to challenge the weight of your flame. I came to question the rules of this fire. Who decides who burns and who survives?
He stepped to the center now, slowly, deliberately, until the orange beneath his feet deepened again, flickering hotter.
Maybe you're right. I haven't earned a crown, but neither did the first one who ever stepped on this stage. They earned attention, and that became fire.
He looked to Deja now, directly.
I don't expect approval, but I do expect heat. If it's rejection, let it burn. If it's silence, I'll stand in it. But I won't leave this room without showing what I came to show.
He breathed out once, then turned back to Dorento.
Now, I open the floor. To you, to them, to anyone with something to ask before the fire decides for itself.
The audience stirred. Glances, murmurs, slow tension pressing into the space. Cassian didn't move yet. A hush, then a shuffle from the seats. A woman stood, not one of the favorites, but someone unknown to most. Her crownless head held high. Her dress was simple but striking. Her voice low and deliberate.
You said you came to show something, but so far all I've seen is you shadow boxing with fire you don't understand.
A few heads turned.
Tell us. Not about the room. Not about the crown. Tell us about you. Who are you, Caven? And why should any of us care?
The tension crackled again. Caven didn't blink.
I've been turned away from better castles than this one. And still, I came.
He stepped once toward her, not too close, just enough.
I don't want your seed. I don't need your respect. I came because I'm the kind of man who sees heat and walks into it anyway.
The stage glowed orange gold beneath him now, flickering as if daring someone to step beside it.
You want a story? Fine. I came from a family that taught me silence was survival. But when silence stopped working, I learned to speak. And now I'm here.
He gave the woman a small nod.
Now tell me, what did you come here for? To listen? Or to find your own place in the fire?
The woman smirked faintly, then sat. The heat of the room curled upward, slow and rising. The room did not move. Neither did the queen. Carven stood alone in that slow dimming gold light, unaware, or perhaps too aware, that something in the room had shifted. She hadn't spoken, which meant he hadn't won. But she let him keep speaking. That, in this room, was rare. He inhaled slowly and began again, less like a man telling a story now and more like someone proving he had nothing left to hide.
When I was 16, I watched my brother burn for speaking too loudly. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. They lit the match. I held his hand. I didn't scream.
His hand twitched at his side. Whether from memory or performance, it wasn't clear.
And every day after, I promised myself I would say something worth burning for. That's why I speak like this. That's why I walk into castles where I don't belong.
He took a step forward. The platform stayed orange, barely.
I don't want a crown. I want a place to stand. I want someone in this room to tell me I'm wrong. Because if no one can, then I was right to come.
His voice dropped low, just for the front row.
So, is anyone going to challenge me?
The silence stretched. The platform flickered, then dipped toward red, waiting. A chair scraped softly. It was not from the back row, not a murmur from the crowd. It was Rain Tami. She rose like the flame she was, quiet, tall, deadly poised. No announcement, no ceremony. Only that sharp sound of her heel stepping off the floor of the audience and onto the obsidian platform, one slow step at a time. Gold flared under her before she spoke. Caven stilled. The silence thickened with recognition. Those who'd seen her before leaned in. Those who hadn't would not forget now. She didn't look at him at first. She didn't need to. She looked toward the Queen, and then...
You want someone to tell you you're wrong?
She turned.
Fine.
She walked the platform like she owned it, because she did. Gold lit her every step. The fire followed her body like it obeyed.
You didn't come here because you want to be challenged. You came here because you wanted someone to see you. But attention isn't earned by telling us about fire. We live in it.
She passed him. Didn't even brush his shoulder.
You want a place to stand? Then learn how to hold one first. Otherwise, you'll just burn next.
She stopped and tilted her head slightly, eyes gleaming.
You said you walked in here like you didn't belong, and you were right.
The crowd stirred, some mouths parted, unsure whether to clap or hold their breath. And Rain Tami? She turned away from him. Caven didn't move at first. Didn't step back, didn't reach forward. He let the silence stretch again, same as before, but this time it wrapped around his throat like a silk ribbon. Then slowly, he smiled. Not wide, not foolish, but like a man who'd just gotten exactly what he came for.
Perfect.
He turned slightly, never leaving the platform, and addressed the room, not Rain Tami.
I didn't come here because I thought I was ready. I came here to find out how much more I had to burn.
His eyes found Deja again, then Rain Tami.
Thank you.
He stepped backward, hands open, a deliberate exit. The gold at his feet dimmed to orange, then red, and finally faded as he left the platform. The audience responded like waves. Some clapped, some whispered. A few looked at Rain Tami like she'd struck a match too close to their skin. And Caven? He returned to his seat, a little humbled, a little more alive. Cassian remained still. The heat in the room pulsed, waiting. A woman in the front row stood up slowly. No crown, no title, just presence. She didn't walk straight to the platform, not yet. She turned to the room instead.
Is that what this is for you?
She gestured toward the platform, toward Caven.
Just a place to practice burning?
Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. She took one step toward the stage, heels clicking once.
There are people in this room who burned long before tonight, who haven't stopped since.
Another step, another heartbeat. She moved with grace, but something inside her was trembling.
You don't get thanked for surviving.
She walked to the stage, took the stairs slowly, paused at the top, turned, and faced the firelight. No theatrics, just pain, gathered neatly into the folds of her dress. She looked at no one, then at everyone.
My name is Aralai.
The platform beneath her shimmered orange, then deepened toward gold. She didn't smile. She didn't speak again. She waited, Aralee's hands remained at her sides, still no smile. But when she spoke again, her voice filled the chamber like she'd been waiting years to say this.
I was 15 the first time I was told to be quiet.
She began pacing, slowly. Barefoot now. She'd slipped out of her heels without a word.
It wasn't cruel, not in the way you'd expect. It came from a woman who said she loved me. She said the world already had too many loud girls. Said the ones who whisper are the ones who survive.
Her eyes swept over the front row, not begging for sympathy, daring someone to understand her.
So I learned to whisper, to keep my tongue pressed between my teeth, to make my truth palatable.
She stopped.
But the truth is, some of us were meant to speak in fire, and if the only way people listen is when the walls start melting, then maybe I'll burn every damn thing just to be heard.
The platform rippled gold beneath her. Still, she didn't raise her voice. She turned back to the room and let the silence settle like ash.
My debate is this. Is silence the price we pay for power? Or is it the lie we tell ourselves to survive it?
She stepped back. Her eyes glinted, just slightly.
I opened the floor.
The room held its breath, and then a slow scrape of a chair leg. Someone in the second row stood, a woman with short, close-cropped hair and a long split skirt that shimmered copper in the light. She didn't go for the platform. She stayed down below, leaning one hand on the rail like it was enough to anchor her.
Power doesn't silence you. It teaches you when not to waste your voice.
A few nods in the crowd. A few narrowed eyes.
Silence isn't the lie, it's the strategy.
The problem is, people like you want fire every time you speak. But fire burns out.
It's the ones who hold their breath longest who rule the room.
She glanced up at the platform, direct, unflinching. So number. Silence isn't survival.
Discipline is.
She stayed standing, waiting, not backing down. Above her, Aralee smiled, just barely, then turned her head slightly toward Deja, almost like asking what she thought of that. The fire beneath the platform shimmered gold for a breath, then settled back to orange. The heat of the room held steady, like the flame itself was listening too. Aralee didn't move right away. She watched the woman below her with that same quiet stillness, shoulders soft, hands folded. Then,
discipline is silence, but mine doesn't ask permission.
She took 2 slow steps across the stage, heels clicking lightly against obsidian.
I've seen mouths move out of fear, and I've seen rooms shaken by one blink, one breath. So let's not pretend that silence is passive. It's a weapon, and I hold it well.
The woman below shifted slightly, her expression unreadable, but her knuckles tightened where they held the rail. Aralee paused, center stage again.
But you're not wrong. It takes a different kind of fire to choose when not to burn.
She lowered her gaze gently, acknowledging, not conceding, then turned her body outward toward the audience, commanding the space again.
My debate is this. What lasts longer, what's said, or what's withheld?
She turned to the edge of the platform.
I opened the floor.
The audience stirred. Quiet murmurs began again. Some intrigued, some skeptical, some clearly moved. A hand rose near the back of the room, hesitant, but raised high enough to be noticed. It was a younger woman, no crown, no position. Likely a citizen of the city, seated among the onlookers who had gathered for this second Inferno session. Her voice carried a mix of nerves and conviction as she stood up, eyes steady on Aralee. Audience member.
Do you believe silence has ever made something worse? Like, by not speaking, have you ever let harm grow where truth might have stopped it?
The room shifted again. A few murmurs. A slow, thoughtful silence. Aralee didn't answer immediately. She turned, very slowly, and walked to the far end of the stage. Her silhouette flickered as the light moved with her. the flames glowing deeper orange. She paused.
Yes.
Her voice was soft, barely more than a breath.
Once.
She looked toward the girl, not as a superior, but as someone remembering a long cut across her own timeline.
I watched a lie wear someone down for months, and I said nothing, because I thought protecting them meant quiet, because I was afraid saying something would change us both.
She let the silence thicken, intentionally this time.
It did anyway.
Then she stepped closer to center again, eyes moving across the crowd.
But silence didn't fail me. Cowardice did.
The platform beneath her flared again, briefly golden before settling. The girl in the audience lowered her eyes. The room was still. Aralee let the echo of her last words settle like smoke curling above a flame. She didn't need to move again. She simply waited. A voice, low, rich and measured, rose from the far end of the audience.
And what would you have done differently, if not silence?
The room shifted as heads turned. He didn't rise from his seat, just sat back, legs slightly spread, hand resting against his jaw as if weighing the fire in her voice. Aralee didn't flinch.
Spoken, once, clean, and let the ruin be real instead of silent.
And if ruin is the only outcome, why rush it?
She smiled. Not because she was amused, because she knew that challenge well.
Because rot tastes worse when you let it sit.
The platform beneath her glowed again, orange this time. She didn't try to force it hotter.
Would you rather your walls fall in the night quietly, or scream as they collapse so you know where not to stand?
The audience stirred. A low sound, somewhere between approval and warning. Sarrain didn't reply right away, but he smirked and leaned back farther in his chair. Aralee stood at the edge of the platform now, her gaze sweeping across the audience like the last curl of smoke before the fire dies down.
Silence is not safety. It is the permission you give to ghosts. To live where your voice should have lived.
She paused, letting the weight of her words fall like embers into the quiet. Then gently,
Thank you for listening to mine.
And with that, she stepped down. The obsidian platform dimmed to a slow, pulsing red as she vanished into the shadows, her presence still burning behind the eyes of those watching. Cassian waited a beat, then gave a silent nod, closing the debate. A stillness followed, filled only with breath, shifting limbs, the faint sound of a wine glass being set down. Another speaker may rise at any moment now. The air was still charged from Aralee's final words, but movement stirred near the back, quiet, deliberate. Chiron stepped forward. No crown, no seat, no title, but presence. He brought that with him. He ascended the obsidian steps without hesitation, his long coat catching faint light as the heat beneath the platform shimmered from deep red to a flicker of orange, like it was testing him, like it wasn't sure what to make of him yet. He stood there for a moment, not performing, not smiling, just watching. Then he walked, slow, a single circle across the platform, letting the silence stretch until the anticipation turned into discomfort. His voice, when it came, was low, confident, dry like a match waiting to be struck.
My name is Chiron. None of you know me yet. Some of you might not want to. That's fine.
He glanced at a few in the room. Not Deja, not yet. But he did look at Nick, brief, then Mr., then Sirene. Subtle, bold.
I don't come from fire. I walked through silence so long it started talking back. Taught me how to fight without fists. Taught me how to wait.
A pause.
I've heard the stories about who's worthy, about what it means to earn a place, but the truth is...
He stopped, smirked, retracted.
The truth is what makes people uncomfortable, isn't it?
Then he turned toward the center of the stage.
I'll keep it simple.
He stepped forward. The platform beneath him flared to orange, warming beneath his feet.
Does survival come from fire, or does it come from knowing how to wait in the cold?
He held the room with that last question, then added,
I open the floor.
A rustle from the audience, shifting posture, a low breath, a few murmurs, but no movement yet. Chiron stood center stage, unbothered. He wasn't reaching. He had said what he came to say. Then a voice rose, not from the favorites, but from the edge of the platform. A woman. She walked out from the shadows near the front row, young, sharp-eyed, cloaked in a soft green robe that touched the floor like water, her crownless head held high.
You say survival comes from waiting in the cold.
She stepped forward.
I say that sounds like fear.
The platform warmed subtly beneath Chiron's feet, but he didn't move.
I've waited before. I've frozen before. And it didn't make me wise. It made me numb. And numb people die slower.
The firelight caught her jawline as she stepped closer, now standing just outside the platform's edge.
So I'll ask you, Chiron, was it? Are you still cold because you're waiting for warmth? Or because you don't think you deserve fire?
Kieran didn't flinch. He simply tilted his head.
Maybe you just never learned how to read the room temp.
The audience murmured, sharp, low, a few smirks. She let out a quiet breath and stepped back.
No more questions from me.
Cassian remained still, watching, measuring, not intervening yet. The velvet air thickened with anticipation until the sound of heels clicked steadily across the obsidian floor. Ereinto. She did not rush. Her presence didn't beg. She walked as if the stage had waited all night for her, and only now had it begun to breathe. Her dress swept like smoke. The orange beneath the obsidian platform pulsed brighter as she neared. She stepped up onto the platform, and Chiron turned to face her. They stood apart, far enough that it wasn't confrontation, but close enough that it felt like one.
You know what the problem is with waiting.
Her voice was calm, unhurried.
You assume someone's going to come find you?
The room quieted to a hush so full it could crack.
But nobody comes for smoke. They chase the fire.
She tilted her head slightly, her gaze moving from Chiron's lips to his eyes.
So, are you fire, Chiron? Or are you just hoping we mistake the steam off your breath for something real?
The platform lit brighter, gold creeping at the edges, but only edges. Kieran didn't move right away, and when he did, it was subtle. A faint smirk, a low breath. His reply measured.
Keep watching. Maybe I'll burn you last.
There was no bravado in his voice, just the suggestion of it. He didn't step forward, didn't retreat. He stood in it. Let the platform glow a deep, volatile red beneath his feet.
I don't burn easy.
She turned, not with haste, but with precision. Her shoulder the last thing he saw, like a sharp line drawn through the end of a sentence. And just before she stepped down, she gave him one more.
You won't be the first man to try, and you won't be the last to fail.
Then she descended, her crown catching the light, gold vanishing into the dark as she left the stage behind. Chiron remained, still, alone. The fire stayed lit beneath him, low, red, slow burning. He looked toward no one in particular. Not yet. The crowd stirred. The tension was real now. Chiron's eyes tracked Dereinto's exit, but not long. The moment she was gone, he shifted. One step, then another. He moved like someone used to people underestimating him. Not like a prince, not like a performer. like a man with nowhere to be but here, and everything to prove in the way he stood. He stopped center stage again. The fire beneath him stayed red, but there was something stirring in the edges of it, a twitch of orange, like heat remembering itself.
Wasn't planning to speak, just watch.
His voice was lower now, less performative, more real.
But that one...
His head tilted toward where Derainto had gone.
She reminded me who I used to be.
The crowd leaned in. No one dared cut through the quiet.
Street fights, midnight bets, speaking too boldly in rooms where I didn't belong. That used to be me.
His hand flexed once, fingers curling like he could still feel the bruises from another life.
I used to think survival was the same thing as power, that if I made it out of another night with my pride intact, I was winning.
He looked down. The fire glowed orange.
But power's not surviving. It's choosing where you stand and who you let see you burn.
The floor beneath him rippled gold for the first time. He didn't look at Deja. Didn't have to.
My debate?
A smirk curled the edge of his mouth.
Is it worse to be underestimated or misunderstood? And which one would you rather weaponize?
He paused, eyes flicking toward the crowd.
I open the floor, if anyone dares.
Cassian stepped closer to the shadows, watching. The moment the queen moved, the room shifted, chairs adjusted. Breath caught. Every soul in the Inferno session room remembered why they were here. Not just to witness fire, but to see who could hold it. Her crown glinted softly as she rose. No announcement, no words yet. The platform had already shifted to gold beneath Chiron, but it quieted the moment her foot met the first step. Not red, not orange, not yellow. Just waiting. Chiron didn't move. Didn't smirk this time, didn't blink. He watched her approach like a man who'd prayed for a storm and finally saw the clouds crack. She stepped beside him. Stillness. The gold beneath her hadn't returned. Not yet. It was watching, listening, and then...
Misunderstood or underestimated?
Her voice fell like silk over glass.
Funny thing is, men who ask questions like that already know which one they've been. Already know what they've done with it. Already hoping someone sees it.
She looked at him, not with challenge, with accuracy.
You think I don't recognize that posture? That edge in your voice when you started? You weren't just remembering the man you used to be.
She leaned in, just slightly. Her crown tilted forward as her words lowered.
You were proving you're still him.
The fire beneath them both rippled. Orange, then red, then still again, conflicted.
Which would I rather weaponize?
A slow smile touched her lips.
Both. At the same time.
The audience didn't dare breathe.
Because I am not a woman you misunderstand. And no one who's seen me once has ever underestimated me again.
The fire under them both surged. Gold. Chiron held still, silent. That flicker of a smirk now completely gone. She circled him slowly, once, eyes on him the whole time.
This was your question, wasn't it? Let's see if you can hold it now.
She didn't blink. She didn't need to. Her silence drew its own circle around him, one even her voice couldn't match. She let the moment steep, rich with meaning, and turned from him without another word. The gold beneath her feet remained long after she stepped off, still glowing in her shape. Chiron stayed planted, eyes forward. His jaw had tightened just slightly, like he wasn't sure whether to speak or submit, like he didn't know which one she wanted. But he didn't follow. Not yet. The queen returned to her seat, her crown catching firelight with every step. She sat, slowly, casually. as if nothing had happened at all. The audience didn't dare move, and Chiron, he finally breathed. He looked across the room once more, not cocky, not confident, measured, like a man beginning to understand the scale of what he had just touched. His voice was clearer now, smoother, still a little raw.
And I came to show my fire, but I think I just met the sun.
He stepped back from the stage. She stood again, no rush, no effort, just presence. The room responded before she spoke, not in words, but in how still they became. How the velvet of the silence wrapped tighter again, like the whole castle leaned in. Her crown glinted. The firelight kissed the edge of her smirk.
Not every spark deserves to burn here.
She let her gaze sweep the room, slowly. From the last speaker who dared, to the ones still waiting to speak, to the favorites watching her from their seats.
But I do like watching them try.
Her voice dripped elegance and fire, and she sat again like a ruler reclaiming the silence, her throne not needing gold beneath it to feel real. The platform glowed soft red again, and the heat in the room stirred once more. The crowd didn't erupt. That wasn't how this room worked. But something shifted. A low murmur coiled through the audience like smoke. Soft breaths, hushed voices, unreadable expressions moving behind half-lit faces. Someone exhaled a quiet damn. Someone else sat forward, fingers steepled under their chin. And still others watched Deja, unmoving, with new fire in their eyes. Even some of the earlier speakers looked nervous now. And yet, one person stood. No rush, no clamor. A young woman, black suit trimmed in silver thread. Her heels clicked with certainty on the stone stairs. Her hair was tied up in braids with rings at the end. She said nothing until she reached the platform. Yellow light pooled at her feet, but the platform only glowed a steady orange. She walked the perimeter of the stage, slowly, watching, letting the quiet stretch until it started to creak. Then she spoke.
You may call me Callus.
She stopped walking, turned.
I came here with a truth and a dare, but I'll offer only one.
A pause. Her voice was smooth but not soft.
Everyone in this room is in love with someone they shouldn't be.
She let it linger, turned her body again and paced.
Maybe it's the queen. Maybe it's someone seated beside them. Maybe it's themselves.
She faced the center now, a direct line to the fire. The floor glowed orange beneath her again.
So here's my question. Is it still love if you'd never say it out loud? Or is that just cowardice in disguise?
She folded her arms.
I open the floor.
And now the room felt electric. For a breathless moment, nothing. Then a man rose, not a queen's favorite, not one of the regulars. A poet from the city, older, elegant, with a tremor in his hand as he stepped forward. His name was whispered as he passed the rose. Adrin Vale. Known in smaller circles for his grief-soaked verse. He didn't wear a crown. He didn't look like he wanted one. But he stepped up onto the platform without flinching. It stayed orange. He looked at Callus, nodded once.
No!
His voice was quieter than hers. Rougher, but no less clear.
It's still love. It's just the kind that bleeds in silence.
He moved closer to the center.
Some of us were taught to worship from the back row, to fold love into metaphors and shadows, where it wouldn't shame us or ruin someone else's throne. So we stay quiet. We write poems. We serve.
He turned, slowly, deliberately, to face the crowd.
But I won't call that cowardice. I'll call it survival.
The floor stayed orange, not red, not yellow. He looked to Callus again.
I admire your question. And your fire.
Then stepped back, leaving his truth behind like a cloak on the floor. Callus gave him the faintest nod of respect. She did not argue. Cassian's voice broke the silence at last. This debate is concluded. And with that, the light under the stage faded. A quiet breath passed through the room. And then a woman rose. She wore no crown, no rich fabrics, no visible weapon, just a tailored black coat over a sharp frame, her hair slicked back, her eyes calm in a way that felt calculated. She didn't hesitate. She walked straight to the platform like she'd been here before. She hadn't, but she walked like she knew this room. The platform lit red. She let the silence breathe. She stood at the center, still as glass, then took a single step forward, letting her voice rise low and unbothered.
My name is Lyra. I'm not here to impress the Queen.
A ripple moved through the crowd.
I'm here to question the ones who think they already have.
Her eyes scanned the favorites. She didn't stare long at any one of them, but she looked, and the stage turned orange.
There's a line between devotion and delusion. You love her. I don't question that. I see it in your eyes when she enters a room. I hear it in the way you all fall silent. I know fire when I see it.
She paused.
But don't forget, flames burn. And I wonder, are you following her fire, or just trying not to get consumed by it?
She moved, walked slowly across the platform, voice even.
So my topic is this. Can devotion become cowardice when you never question the one you serve?
She turned back to the crowd, and then to the Queen. She didn't smirk. She didn't flinch. She simply held her ground, letting the silence speak for her. The platform stayed orange.
I open the floor to the audience, but only if you've lived what you're about to say.
She folded her arms, waiting. A murmur ran through the crowd, but no one stood. Lyra didn't move. Her arms stayed folded. Her gaze stayed firm. She didn't blink, didn't shrink, didn't shift the weight in her stance. She had already said what she came to say. The silence stretched, turning heavier, more personal. And then, a low voice rose from the left.
She's not the kind you question.
A few heads turned. Sirene had remained seated, elbows on his knees, gold crown tilted low. But now he straightened. His voice carried just enough to touch the walls.
You don't survive her fire by worshiping it. You survive it because she lets you.
The platform flickered slightly, still orange, but hotter now.
Devotion ain't weakness. It's war, one you choose to fight every day. To love her is to fight to deserve her, over and over.
Lyra's eyes didn't leave his.
And do you win?
Sirene smirking.
Only when she lets me.
The audience shifted again, laughs in the dark. Someone clapped once, slow and deliberate, but Lyra didn't break.
Then I suppose you and I define devotion differently.
My voice came from the side, calm and clear. Topic closed. The platform dimmed back to red. Lyra stepped down from the stage, just as calm as when she entered. The room held its breath once more. From the velvet-draped edge of the stage, Nick shifted forward. He hadn't moved all evening. Not really. He watched. He waited, crown low on his locks, long fingers steepled in front of his mouth. But now he stood. No urgency. No announcement. Just a slow rise and a silence that followed him like shadow. He climbed the side stairs in tailored black, dark as the platform beneath him. The heat didn't rise yet. Not for him. Not until he started. He reached the center, paused, and turned. Golden lights from below traced his jaw. He didn't speak. Not yet. He just smiled and let the silence build until someone in the audience shifted in their seat. Only then did he move, a few steps left, then right, then a small glance toward the Queen.
I've heard a lot of people talk tonight about devotion, desire, power.
He paused again.
But none of them really talked about her, not the way I know her.
More silence, the kind that dared someone to stop him.
See, some of y'all want her fire, some want her favor, some just want her attention so bad you think if you say the right words, you'll get it.
He turned slowly on the platform.
But me?
He smirked.
I want the silence between us.
Now the platform pulsed orange.
Because her silence doesn't mean absence. It means you being watched. It means she's letting you speak. For now.
Another pause.
And when that silence breaks, that's when you'll know what you really are to her.
The heat glowed brighter. Still not gold.
So here's my topic.
He turned full toward the audience.
Power isn't proven by who speaks loudest. It's proven by who stays still, longest. Tell me I'm wrong.
He opened the floor with a slight nod. A long silence stretched. One woman in the crowd leaned forward like she might speak, then shrank back into her seat. Another let her hand hover in the air before dropping it slowly to her lap. No one moved. No one dared. Not until a voice finally rose, soft but clear, from the right wing of the audience platform.
Then what happens to those of us who don't fear silence, but live in it?
A girl stepped forward, barely more than 20. Her voice carried, not loud but sharp, shaped like glass. She wore no crown, no armor. Just obsidian silk and a look that didn't beg for attention. It stole it. She stepped into the aisle and made her way toward the front. The guards glanced at each other, then let her pass. The room shifted. She took the side stairs, not rushing, not hesitant, walked the glowing edge of the platform and paused beside Nick. Didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him at all, only turned to the room and spoke.
Some of us were forged in stillness, in the kind of silence you don't choose, but survive.
She looked toward the throne, and the firelight curled along her jaw.
Power isn't about who lasts in silence. It's about who remembers what they were when they were finally allowed to speak.
The platform pulsed, yellow, then dipped back to orange. She turned her head slightly toward Nick and finally smirked.
So go ahead. Try and out-silence the rest of us. But when the words come, we'll be the ones who remember.
She nodded, stepped back, and gave him the floor again. Nick didn't move at first, didn't blink, didn't even glance her way. He stood there in the heat of her words like he'd been expecting them, like he wanted them. His jaw tensed for just a second, then released into a smile, slow, devastating, unreadable. He finally turned his head.
You'll remember?
He let the words linger, then tilted his chin slightly.
Then don't forget who gave you the moment to speak.
A soft ripple moved through the audience, half breath, half reaction.
I didn't come up here to silence anyone. I came to remind them who set the stage on fire.
He stepped closer, not to her, but to the edge of the platform. Let the spotlight catch his features just enough.
I'm not afraid of what they say in the dark. I'm just the reason they want the light.
And then, he smiled again, sharper now.
Next time, don't smirk unless you're ready to burn.
The platform pulsed again beneath his feet. Gold this time. Brief. Gone. He stepped down without another word. The room sat with it, and sat longer. She stepped down without looking away from Nick. The gold in the floor had faded, but her spine didn't. She moved like she didn't lose, didn't flinch, didn't mind the fire, whether it touched her or not. At the base of the platform, she glanced toward the audience, then up, past the shadows, toward the Queen, held her gaze for just a second too long, and walked back to her seat. Quiet, intentional. The platform stood empty again, waiting. She didn't rise. She didn't have to. The gold veins in the obsidian pulsed brighter at her stillness alone, like the floor remembered who owned its heat. The room, already firelit, shifted just slightly in temperature. Chairs creaked, glasses stilled, and somewhere near the back, someone stopped breathing for a moment too long. Then her voice, smooth and precise.
Is that all?
It wasn't loud, but it laced the room in something more dangerous than volume. Expectation. A hush deeper than silence swept through the Inferno room. No one moved yet. Not even the favorites. The silence deepened. No movement, no shift, just the slow simmer of firelight across glass, velvet, and stone. No one dared to claim the floor. The last speaker's words still lingered in the air, sweet and bold, but perhaps not enough. Still, the Queen's presence alone pulled the room taut. Eyes darted. Someone near the side of the room, unknown, crownless, shifted in their seat like they might speak. But they didn't. Not yet. Then, a whisper of a chair pulling back, and footsteps, confident ones, but not toward the stage. Chiron moved to the center aisle, slowly, intentionally. His crownless head held high, posture precise, like he knew he was being watched by everyone and welcomed the pressure. He didn't speak. He just walked to the very front row and sat, bold, but not reckless. A statement. He was here, and ready. Still, he said nothing. The floor remained empty. The silence stretched. But then, footsteps, measured, confident, heavy, but smooth. Midster. He emerged from the shadows at the back of the Inferno room, where he'd been leaning against a wall with his arms crossed, watching as he always did, like the room belonged to him and he was just letting everyone borrow it. The firelight skimmed his frame as he walked, slow and grounded, crown in place, beard sharp, eyes locked on no one and everyone at once. He didn't step onto the obsidian platform right away. He circled it, let the silence bend around his steps like smoke. Then he took the stairs in one smooth motion and stood center stage, hands in his pockets.
Now that we've heard all this fire, how about we see who can hold it?
The platform lit orange gold beneath him, sensing something. His calm, his daring, his subtle heat. He turned slowly, speaking directly to the room.
Game time, a castle favorite. You've been watching, judging, nodding, sipping. Let's test you now.
A grin, sly and unbothered.
I call it truth, fire, silence. I'll ask a question. One of y'all volunteers to answer. But here's the catch.
He paused.
If your answer's too safe, I'll call silence. If it's too wild, I'll call fire. And if you surprise me...
He smirked, locking eyes with a random guest.
You win.
A brief flicker of laughter moved through the crowd, some tense, some delighted. Cassian's expression didn't change, but he allowed it.
Let's see who's brave enough to burn first.
He took a step back, letting the spotlight drift across the audience. From the second row, half lit by the flickering wall torches, a woman stood. Not too fast, not too slow. She was tall, older, striking, dressed in obsidian silk that gleamed like molten stone. a stranger to the court, yet she moved like she'd been waiting her turn, her crownless head held high, her voice smooth.
I'll go first.
Mr. raised his eyebrows, impressed, but not surprised. He motioned gently toward the glowing platform with a tilt of his chin.
Come on up, then.
She ascended the steps, her eyes never leaving his. The moment she stepped onto the platform, it shimmered from gold to a deep burnt orange, like a simmering ember.
All right then, stranger. Your question, Dot.
He stepped closer, slow and easy.
You ever loved someone who didn't love you back?
A hush fell. She didn't flinch.
No.
Mr. tilted his head.
Too safe.
He turned slightly.
Silence.
A few murmurs rippled through the audience. She stepped down without protest, her pride unbent. Mr. faced the room again.
Next.
A low laugh stirred from the left side of the room, smooth, rich, and full of danger. Sirene. He was already standing, leaning against one of the great Inferno room pillars, a drink in hand, crown gleaming under the firelight. He didn't step forward right away. He just sipped slowly, then began walking toward the obsidian platform like he had all the time in the world.
Some of y'all scared to bleed a little, huh?
The gold of the stage didn't flash for him. Not yet. He circled it once, eyes on Mr., then the crowd, then finally on the Queen. Only then did he step up, and the light turned a rich orange, then gold. Sirene to Mr.
How about I make this interesting?
He turned to the crowd.
Game time.
The room perked up.
3 truths, 1 lie. We play it out. No one leaves until someone folds or someone gets exposed.
He smirked and gestured toward Mr., Raintami, and then the rest of the favorites.
Favorites first. Y'all wanna dance?
I don't fold.
He stood, slow, dramatic, as if the room had asked him to. The gold still glowed for Siren, but as Mr. approached, it burned brighter, just for a moment. The crowd noticed. He stepped onto the platform beside him. 2 crowns. 2 flames. Mr. to the crowd.
You want 3 truths and 1 lie from me.
He turned to Sirene, voice like velvet wrapped in warning.
I don't lose. I've had my heart broken. I've lied for the Queen. And once, I kissed one of you.
A ripple of heat. The crowd stirred, whispering. A few heads turned, wondering which one of them it was. Sirene just laughed.
That's how you play.
He pointed to the crowd.
Guess the lie. 1 chance. If you're wrong, you owe us 1. If you're right, he owes you.
He stepped aside and let the fire-lit tension breathe. A voice from the crowd, smooth, young, trying to sound bolder than it was, called out first.
You never lied for the Queen.
The room hissed. That was a risky guess. Mr. turned, his head tilting with slow, deliberate amusement. His grin widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. He walked to the edge of the stage, crouched just slightly, and stared at the one who dared.
That is very incorrect.
A few chuckles, a few gasps. One of the guards gently tapped the man's shoulder. He'd be asked to volunteer next round, most likely. Sirene clapped once, loud.
1 down.
Another voice, bolder this time from someone nearer the front, called out. Second stranger.
The lie is, your heart never broke.
Mr. paused. He looked toward Deja for a moment, then turned back to the guessing voice with a softer smirk.
Wrong again. I felt that crack. Still do sometimes.
Gasps again. Raintami raised a brow, her smile curling ever so slightly at the edges. Now 2 guesses were gone. A silence fell, stretching just long enough to make the third voice hesitate. But it came, low, clear and feminine. Not a stranger. Derainto, from her seat in the shadows of the velvet lounge, finally lifted her head.
The lie is that she didn't already know.
The audience stilled. Even Mr. blinked. Then his smile returned, genuine this time, with the faintest shake of his head.
Damn.
He stood tall again, brushing imaginary dust from his sleeves.
That's the one.
Laughter rippled across the room, soft and knowing. Cassian gave a nod of approval from the side. Sirene let out a low whistle. And Mr.? He leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with Derainto now.
Your turn next time. I'll be listening.
Then, with a bow more elegant than expected, he stepped off the platform, letting the heat fall back to a steady, glowing red. The lights dimmed, not all at once but gradually, as if the castle itself were exhaling. Shadows stretched long across the obsidian platform, and the flicker of gold along its base pulsed once, then held. Cassian didn't move. No one did. Until Dash. A single heel touched the bottom step of the platform, no name called, no announcement made, just the sound of the Queen rising. Her silhouette ascended slowly, the crown catching firelight like it had been forged from silence itself. She stepped onto the obsidian with no music, no applause, only the trembling hush of a room that had never seen her walk this path before. Her presence alone made the temperature rise, and the platform responded. First orange, then gold, then a shimmer so quiet it felt like reverence. She didn't need to say a word, but she did.
Every flame in this room tonight tried to prove something.
She let the silence stretch, letting the words rest between their ribs.
And I listened.
A pause. Her eyes scanned the room, not seeking approval, not asking permission.
Some of you stood here thinking the crown is something you earn by shouting louder than the heat can carry. Others told stories meant to seduce the fire. But fire doesn't bend. Not unless I ask it to.
She turned, letting her hand glide across the edge of the glowing floor.
This is my court, and every word you speak here carves your name in stone. That is, if you can make it last long enough to matter.
Then she smiled, slow, sharp, deliberate.
So speak wisely, burn well, and remember, the heat you summon here, it stays with you, long after I leave.
Her crown caught the final flicker of gold, and then she stepped off the platform. Cassian, as if cued by fate, spoke at last. The second Inferno session is closed. Silence held like a breath. The gold at the base of the obsidian platform faded, slow and final. The glow retreated into red, then ember, until even that vanished, like it knew not to outshine the Queen. And still, she didn't move. She lingered near the exit, just beyond the fire's reach, her silhouette still visible to everyone who remained, watching, letting the weight of her closing words settle like ash across the room. One by one, they stood. Some with pride, some with shame, some with their heads down, knowing they hadn't brought enough. The audience moved first, murmuring low, then silencing themselves again, as if afraid to taint the air. No one spoke above a whisper. No one dared try to follow her moment with one of their own. Then the favorites began to leave. Mista stood at the edge of the crowd a little longer, his gaze catching Deja's once, grinning low like he'd give her something to smirk about later. Seren moved quietly, like the room hadn't even touched her, but her eyes were sharp, always watching who left how. Sarlan lingered behind the crowd, brushing her hand lightly over the chair she sat in, as if remembering the weight of it. Then she turned and was gone. Serene was the slowest. He stood at the back wall, arms folded, body still, until the lights caught her crown again. He nodded once, deep, then vanished into the corridor like a ghost who knew his fire could wait. De Rainto and Raintami? They hadn't moved yet. One leaned on the wall, one still sat at ease. But even they, eventually, rose. She watched it all, and she remained, last flame standing,